Good morning, students. Today we will learn History, chapter number 9, Last Phase of Struggle for Independence. Students, in the previous part of the chapter, we have studied about the beginning of people's movement, the underground movement, and the establishment of parallel government, and also we have learned about the importance of Quit India movement. Today, we will learn with the remaining topics. We will begin with the topic of Indian National Army or the Azad Hind Sena. Students, our national leader Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had took phenomenal efforts for gaining independence of India. Subhash Chandra Bose was the leader of the Azad Hind Sena. On the eastern borders of India, thousands of Indians stood in readiness to fight against the British. All these thousand soldiers belonged to the Azad Hind Sena and fought under the leadership of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Apart from leading the army, Subhash Chandra Bose was also an important leader of the Indian National Congress. He graced the position of the President of Congress twice. It was the opinion of Subhash Chandra Bose that while England was busy or engaged in fighting the Second World War, Indians should take good advantage of it and make a movement of freedom more intense and stronger. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose also said that if it is necessary, then India should seek the help of the enemy countries of England. But there arose a differences of opinion between Subhash Chandra Bose and some other senior leaders of Indian National Congress. Due to this difference in opinions and thinking, Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from the position of President of Congress. Later on, to place his views in front of the people, he founded his own party, which was known as Forward Bloc. Subhash Chandra Bose appealed to the Indians through his speeches to revolt against the British rule. Due to these speeches of inspiration, the British government imprisoned Netaji. But Subhash Chandra Bose went on fast up to death in the prison. It means Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had declared that he will do complete fasting, that is, he will not eat anything till death, and he will die in the prison, but he will not eat anything. As Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose went on fast, the British government had to shift him to his own residence and he was kept as house arrest. In short, he was free from the jail and kept in his house with full police who kept a complete watch over him. Even after such restrictions and complete watch over him, he had escaped from his residence in disguise. As soon as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose escaped from his house in April 1941, he reached Germany. In Germany, Netaji had founded the Free India Center. From the Berlin Radio Center, which is in Germany, Subhash Chandra Bose appealed to the Indian people to join in the armed struggle against the British rulers. During this period, Raj Bihari Bose invited Subhash Chandra Bose to visit to Japan. Students, now let us study about how the Indian National Army was formed. That is, formation of Indian National Army. Since the year 1915, Raj Bihari Bose was staying in Japan. In the year 1941, Raj Bihari Bose had invited Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose to Japan. While staying there in Japan, Raj Bihari Bose had organized the Indian patriots who were living in the countries of Southeast Asia and had organized a new organization which was named as the Indian Independence League. In the early part of the year 1942, Japan had conquered some territories in Southeast Asia which were controlled by the British rulers. Because of this, thousands of Indian soldiers and officers who were in the British Army there fell into the hands of Japan. Raj Bihari Bose, along with the help of Captain Mohan Singh, had formed a battalion of all these Indian prisoners of war. This battalion was named as the Indian National Army or the Azad Hind Sena. Later on, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose became the leader and led the Indian National Army. In the month of October in 1943, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had established the Azad Hind government in the country of Singapore. This government was established with the help of some chief associates of Netaji. These chief associates were Shah Nawaz Khan, Jagannath Bhosle, Dr. Lakshmi Swaminathan, Gurubaksh Singh Dhillon, Prem Kumar Sehgal, etc. Among all these chief associates, Captain Lakshmi Swaminathan was the commander of the Rani of Jhansi regiment. In order to inspire people to fight for the freedom of India and join the Indian National Army, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose appealed to the Indian people. He used the appealing words of "You give me blood and I shall give you freedom." Students, these words of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose proved out to be a great source of inspiration which inspired people to fight for the country even without worrying for their life. Now, let us study about some of the important achievements of the Indian National Army led by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. In the month of November in 1943, Japan had conquered the Indian islands of Andaman and Nicobar and handed them over to the Azad Hind government. Thus, these islands were now free from the rule of the British rulers. After getting the administration of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose renamed these islands as Shahid and Swarajya respectively. Thus, Andaman was renamed as Shahid and Nicobar Islands were named as Swarajya. In the very next year, that is in 1944, the Indian National Army captured the Akran province in the country of Myanmar. Also, some of the posts on the eastern border of Assam were also captured. During this same period, suddenly Japan had stopped helping the Indian National Army and hence the campaign of Impal remained incomplete. Even without the help of Japan, the Indian National Army soldiers were completely dedicated and were fighting in such adverse circumstances. But in this same period, Japan had accepted defeat. Also, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had died in a plane accident on 18th of August in 1945. On this background, the soldiers of the Indian National Army had to lay down their arms, and thus the thrilling or the most important phase of the Indian National Army came to an end. The major two reasons behind the end of the Indian National Army was first the defeat of Japan and second the sudden death of their leader Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Students, as soon as the death of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was announced, the British government charged some of the important officers of the Indian National Army with treason. Some of the expert lawyers, including Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Bhalubhai Desai, Tej Bahadur Sapre, had defended these officers in the court. But the military tribunal held all these officers guilty and they were sentenced to life imprisonment. It means they were given the punishment of staying in the jail or behind the prison throughout their life. Due to this punishment given by the British government, there was severe unrest in the minds of Indian people against the British government and its rulers. Due to the growing unrest, finally, the British government had to suspend its punishment, which were given to the officers by the military tribunal, and all these officers were later on let free. Students, after the revolt of the Indian National Army, later on, the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force also continued a revolt against the British rulers. Now, let us study about the revolt of Indian Navy and Air Force. Students, Navy are the soldiers who protects the water boundaries of our country, and Air Force soldiers are the soldiers which protect our country's airspace. Taking the inspiration from the Indian National Army, the Navy and the Air Force soldiers also joined the war against the British government. There was growing discontent and anger among all the soldiers against the British government. This discontent burst out on the British warship named Talwar in Mumbai on 18th of February 1946. On this day, the soldiers of the Indian Navy unfurled the Indian tricolor flag on this British warship. Also, the slogans against the British government were raised. In order to stop or to crush this revolt, the British government sent its army with the order to open fire on all the naval soldiers. In counter of the open firing by the army, the rebels, that is the Indian naval officers, also made counter attack with their firing. The workers and the common people also extended their support to the naval soldiers. Thus, there was the British Army on one side, and against them were the naval soldiers, the workers, and the common people. Finally, in order to stop this bloodshed, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was called for mediation or to control the situation. Due to the mediation of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the naval soldiers laid down their arms and the situation came under control. In order to support this uprising of the naval soldiers, the Air Force officers from Delhi, Lahore, Karachi, Ambala, Meerut, etc. went on strike. All these revolts were a clear indication to the British government that the sentiments of discontent and anger against these British rulers had reached the climax. In this way, the period between 1942 to 1946 completely shook the foundation of British power in India. There was severe discontent in the minds of Indian people against the British. Through the Quit India movement, this discontent was expressed by the common people. The army, navy, and the air force was the backbone of the Indian power. But now all these three forces were opposing the British rulers. Due to all these incidences, the British rulers finally realized that now they will not be able to empower or rule India for a longer period of time. So, students, in this chapter, we have studied about the last phase or the last struggle before India got independence. In the next chapter, we will study about the armed revolutionary movement against the British rulers. Thank you.